Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to join us today. I do want to go ahead and get started on time, so that's why I went ahead and clicked let's go live now, and I'll slow down a little bit at the beginning here to give everyone a chance to get online with us. Hopefully you're watching us nice and clear on YouTube. You can also follow the link to watch this webinar provided by Splash Media U on our Google Plus page. And of course, because you're watching it on YouTube, most of you are, the video archive of this will be available using that same link indefinitely after this, unless we move it off our channel. So you're welcome to come back to this webinar at any time, just to make sure you're in the right place. I'm guessing you are, but you're here for LinkedIn in 10 minutes a day. I'm Duncan Gilman. I'm the Dean of Students for Splash Media U, Social Media Certification Program. And with us online, we've also got our marketing guy, marketing guru, Julio Lebron. And Julio is going to be tweeting some of the poll questions that we've got for you today. And he's going to be using the hashtag #SplashWebinar. So of course we encourage you to use that same hashtag in answering the questions, and I'll show you how that works in a second when I switch over to share my screen. But welcome again, Julio and I are very excited to have you joining us today. And of course, after the fact, I will be tweeting. I tweet as myself and Splash Media U, and the tweets that you see coming in live, those will be from Splash Media U from Julio as well. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how to participate in our webinar, because that's what it's really all about, having your participation. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my screen so you can see what I see, and it's going to look funny for just a second here while I make that switch. And again, today we're talking about how to improve your efficiency on LinkedIn. I think what a lot of us do is we tend to get bogged down in social media, and we need ways to improve our efficiency, not just make things faster. Efficiency doesn't mean making things faster. It means making things smarter. So how can you spend your time the smartest way you can in LinkedIn? That's what we're going to talk about today. How you can sign in, sign off, get everything done, and get on with your life, especially on LinkedIn. And you can take a lot of these things that you learn and apply them to other social media channels too. But I'm specifically going to be talking about things on LinkedIn. But again, feel free to adapt these and adopt them as you need to. As I mentioned before, right at the beginning, Julio and I are going to be online now and after the fact to answer your questions. So if you would, go ahead and tweet in your answers using A and the number. So Julio's going to be tweeting out the questions, Q and the number, throughout the webinar today. And if you would, tweet A and the number, and that way we'll know which poll question you're answering. And I've got Twitter open here as well, so I'll be able to hopefully address some of those questions live. I would love to be able to do that. Again, the hashtag is #SplashWebinar, and if you aren't able to join the conversation on Twitter, that's totally fine. Go ahead and put in a question in the YouTube comments, and after the webinar, we will be happy to answer those. So again, Twitter is great. You can talk live. YouTube is good for after the fact, and we can keep the conversation going. Always love to do that. Let's start off with a question. So Q1, where do you spend the most time when you're on LinkedIn? So think about your time spent in LinkedIn. Where are you the most? Are you participating in groups? Are you publishing articles or reading them on the news service Pulse? And if you didn't know before, Pulse is that general name for all of the articles published by you and other people and media organizations that come through as news items. Do you spend the most time in search, looking for people to interact with, to connect with, to reach out to as potential clients? Where do you spend the most time in LinkedIn? I'll give you a second to answer, and I've got Twitter open here, and I'll check. Because what we're going to try to do is show you a few ways to maximize the time that you spend there, to be able to do a little bit of everything throughout the week. And as you'll see, my strategy for LinkedIn isn't a daily strategy. It's more of a weekly strategy. And that's how I run a lot of social media tactics, is I base them on a week-long schedule. If I'm going to put out 1 or 2 blog posts a week, if I'm going to do a certain number of Facebook posts, I base it on a week-long schedule in order to plan out everything that I do. I've got Twitter open here, and I'm looking for the A one answers, and I think what we'll do is we'll come back to those. I'm sure some of you are typing those in now, so I'll just come back to them in a second. I'm actually going to go ahead and dive right into how I recommend setting up your LinkedIn schedule. So this is my recommended LinkedIn in 10 minutes a day chart. Your chart does not have to look like this, but I recommend that you come up with something that helps you organize your time. So for example, in my chart, I've got about 10 tasks here, and they include everything from writing recommendations to publishing posts. And you can see across the top on the right, I've got the days of the week and just put a check mark by which things to do which day so that I can, again, get in, do what I need to do, and get out. So for example, at the top there, I want to review the news. That's something I should probably be doing every day. I should probably be looking at what people are talking about, what's happening in my industry, and LinkedIn is going to customize those for you. Things that you have expressed interest in, things pardon me, things that you posted about, connections that you have, groups that you're in, those news items are going to be customized based on what you essentially tell LinkedIn you're into. So it's a good idea to check those every day. It's also a good idea to respond to emails and invitations every day. And a couple of things are beyond that are spread out through 2 days, through 1 day, just depending on what makes sense for you. And what I would base this on, how I would customize this would be based on your network. So when is your network online? When are they talking about items of interest for your industry? So in this example, I've got share an article or status update twice a week. I would make sure that you're logging in or checking into your groups at least once a week, publishing a post once a week. Now, publishing a post is a little bit different than sharing an article. And we'll talk about the difference when I talk about, we'll dive into content a little bit. We'll talk more about post publishing. And that, just to be upfront with you, that does take a little bit longer than 10 minutes when you're first starting out. But there are ways you can maximize your time spent there too. And we'll talk about that when we talk about posting. But you can read the rest of this. I'll bring this chart back up at the end. Pose a question in a group, send your connection requests, send emails, write recommendations. Just the basics that you really need to be doing every single week in LinkedIn. If you chart it out, it'll help you keep your time optimized. So back to question one. We've got looking for jobs. Oh, LinkedIn is great for job hunting. So looking for jobs can be very valuable. In groups, Christopher says, yeah, absolutely. I think groups are probably the most valuable thing you can do on LinkedIn if you're not job searching. If you're on the job hunt, you can find some great resources and connections and job postings from other companies. But next to that, I think groups is probably going to be the most valuable place you can spend your time on LinkedIn. Let's ask you another question here. So what I'm going to do is divide our chart into several different sections as we go through talking about these tips. So our first section is going to be about profiles. We're going to talk about profiles, about connecting to other people, about the content that you can develop, and then about converting those connections into sales, into clients. So we're going to start off with profiles. And my question for you, Q2, when did you last update your profile? Part of making sure you're maximizing your time, making everything more efficient on LinkedIn, is keeping everything up to date so that you're not faced with a huge chunk of time, once every quarter trying to fill in everything. So when did you last update your profile? No right or wrong answer, just trying to get a feel for how often you're in LinkedIn and actually working on the things that you can customize. Let me show you an example here. We're going to talk about a couple of tips on the profile side. One is optimizing your profile and one is customizing. On the optimizing side, using your keywords for your industry is great, but what it really comes down to is explaining to someone who doesn't know you what you do. So just a quick word about some of the profiles you'll see. I've changed all of the pictures and names. So these the descriptions you see, the things I'm illustrating here are real, but the names and faces I've changed out just to protect people's privacy. So Julie here says, this is Julie's LinkedIn profile. just the what little bit of it would come up in a search if I'm looking for Julie or someone similar. And her summary at the top says, passionate about providing the best business solutions and excellent service to my clients and their customers. That tells me absolutely nothing. I don't know. Clients are who? Who are your customers? Business solutions could be anything. Business solutions is the vaguest company description I've ever heard in my life. What is that? I need more information. If I'm doing a search for people I want to connect to, this tells me nothing. I mean, I know she's in Seattle. That's great. So if she's nearby, maybe we can get coffee, but she's still going to have to re-explain everything she does because I know nothing about her. So right away in the summary, it's a perfect opportunity to optimize your profile just by telling me specifically what it is you do, whether it's social media related on the marketing side, or if you're in a specific industry. This is your chance. This is your chance to grab me right away and tell me what it is you're passionate about. Optimize your profile right there at the top, and you have a much better chance of coming up in searches. Back on Q2, Christopher says, been a few weeks. We've got World Famous saying, if you don't have, this is a great question. He asks, if you don't have something to update, what should you update regularly? That is a great question. What you can do, you may not have a huge job description to change on your profile, but what you could do is recommend somebody. That appears on your profile too. You could solicit a recommendation. If you have a colleague you've been working with for a long time, ask to be recommended. There's nothing wrong with that. It is also seen when you have a status update. It's seen by your network, so it doesn't show directly on your profile the way something would in your timeline on Facebook or Twitter, but it's still a way of making sure that your connections know that you're still active. But things that do appear, recommendations are great. You can update your skills if those have changed. And again, even if there's something that hasn't changed in your overall generic job description itself, maybe there's a new task that you're taking on. So put that into the job description as a bullet point like you would in a resume, or put it in as a skill, or put it in as a project. A project is a great way to update your profile, because those are the larger things that you're doing several times throughout the year that may not be appropriate for your individual job description, but could be in the project section. Let's talk a little bit. So this is just the basics of optimizing your profile. Tell me what you do, use keywords, and use them throughout your profile in every section. Don't stuff the keywords in a way that doesn't make the section readable, but put them throughout, because the more sections that you fill out in LinkedIn, this is another opportunity. The more chance you have to come up in searches, because you're just proving again that you offer something of value to either a job poster, or someone who wants to network, or someone who wants to collaborate. Every opportunity, every section in your LinkedIn profile is another opportunity to be found in search and to really let people know what it is you do. Another opportunity besides the optimization is the customization on your profile. And this is just one example. Did you know that you can customize the URLs in the website section of your contact information, so they're not just www URLs? You can actually change the text so that you can describe where it is you're sending people. So for example, if I've got my own blog there, Digital Marketing Consultant, and that URL is my own blog, but I've changed the hyperlink text to say Digital Marketing Consultant, which is, guess what, a keyword, a key phrase. I've changed the Splash Media U URL. Ordinarily it would say http://www. I don't have to say the rest. It would say splashmediau.com. Well, look at that. I did say the rest. I changed it to say social media training. What is that? It's a key phrase. So I've used key phrase not only in the sections that describe who I am and what I do, but I'm using these key phrases also in areas that I can customize, like these URLs. So rather than just showing, again, the www dot, I can actually tell people what it is they're clicking on. So in the bottom example, they're clicking on social media training, and in the top example, they're clicking on someone who knows about digital marketing. Let's move on to another question. You guys are great. I love seeing the participation come in. Let me refresh my Twitter here, make sure I'm not missing anything. Q3 is, what other tools do you use to find and keep up with contacts? So we're talking about LinkedIn today, but I'm curious, where else are you organizing your connections? If it's on the sales side, maybe that's something like Salesforce, a CRM like that. If it's just something simple, a simple spreadsheet, maybe you're doing it in Excel. That could be a tool that you're using to keep up with contacts, just have them all organized. Maybe it's the built-in contacts app on your phone or on your computer, in your email program. What other tools are you using? So I'm interested what you're using to keep up with them and what you're using to find them. Are you using these search features that are built into social media platforms like the great search that you can find in Twitter? I love the advanced search on Twitter. The advanced search on LinkedIn is also very powerful, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Any other tools that you're using? Let me take a look at your answers here and share those. I love what Julio's doing. He's got photos with each of these tweets coming out. It looks great. And of course, we hope that we can keep this conversation going even after the webinar, and you're welcome to keep tweeting and answer some of these questions or ask your own on the YouTube comments as well. Let's talk about how my mind's on YouTube. Let's talk about how LinkedIn can be some of these tools for you. A lot of these CRM tools are great. They offer a lot of additional automation capability. But let's review some of the things that LinkedIn can do to help save you some time and, again, keep your time maximized so you don't have to spend your whole day stuck in the weeds here on LinkedIn trying to figure out what to do. One of those things that can save you time is saved searches. These are fantastic because one of the reasons they're fantastic for me personally is they come through over email. I love all the web tools that are out there for searching and finding people and connecting with people, but I still rely heavily on email. I don't know if you feel the same. So it's so helpful when I can get an email alert instead of having to go to a website, because email is something I'm on every day, all day long. So to have that come through an email is super helpful. And this is one of those examples of something that can be sent directly to your email. It's a saved search based on LinkedIn's really powerful, great advanced search engine. You can go into LinkedIn Advanced Search and search by titles, by job description, by skills, by geographic area, by anything you can imagine, anything that you'd have on your LinkedIn profile. You can search by that. And then you can take that search and save it. For the free LinkedIn accounts, you can have 3 saved. Searches, and for the paid ones, you can have more than that based on which level of paid LinkedIn account you have, whether you're a job searcher, job seeker, if you have one of the enterprise accounts. But so I'm just showing you the free one has 3 different saved searches you can include. You can see my 2 examples at the bottom. I put in Full Sail and PDX. PDX is in a Portland office, Portland, Oregon, and PDX is the abbreviation a lot of people use because it's the airport code. But I want to connect with marketers in Portland. So one of my searches, I've just titled Marketing in PDX, and I set my alert for weekly. It tells me how many are new. So anytime LinkedIn finds a new person who does marketing, something about marketing in their profile in Portland, it'll come through in my alert. I love these things. I just included a new one. You can see how when you do the search itself, there's an option in the top right corner to save the search, and it brings you to this window, and you see my example at the top here. So if I'm creating a new one called Chief Financial Officer, let's say that's who I want to connect with. So I create that new search using whatever search filters and fields I want from the advanced search. And then when I click Save Search, it takes me to this screen. I can rename the title, something that's familiar to me, just like I did with Full Sail in PDX, Marketing in PDX, and then choose how often I want to get it. So a great tool to use to really save you time. You don't have to spend every day going in doing the same search over and over again. You can just be alerted when there's somebody new. Along those same lines, something you can do on the connection side to save you some time in the long run is personalize your invitations. This may seem a little counterintuitive, because why would spending more time writing a personalized invitation save you time? It's because you only really want to connect with people that make sense for your business. On LinkedIn, it's a professional channel, so it doesn't really make sense to connect with people who aren't related to what you do. So by including a personal note, you can save a little bit of the headache of guessing if people are going to be right for you, or guessing that people are going to be good connections and want to collaborate with you. You can actually tell them, hey, this is how we met, this is how we connected, let's connect here on LinkedIn. Also, there's a much better chance that they'll accept your connection invitation. That's another way you can save some time. Rather than wasting time sending connection invites to people who may or may not respond, give yourself a better chance that they will actually accept your invitation by personalizing the note. Do not use the default. I mean, there's a reason, you see where I have it circled here, there's a reason LinkedIn says include a personal note, because LinkedIn wants you to opt to customize that note there. So for my example, I said, Julie, it was great to meet you at yesterday's networking session. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn so we can follow up. And how long did that take me? Probably, gosh, all of 15 seconds to write that. So certainly it takes a minimum amount of your 10 minutes a day that you're going to spend to personalize that note, but in the long run makes you much more efficient. Let's talk about one more little efficiency tactic on the connection side. And I mentioned, we were talking about the tools that people were using. In fact, let me see what some people answered here. Christopher says he doesn't have a single location. What a solid idea. It is a good idea. If you could find a tool that works for you that does everything in one, it's great. And LinkedIn can do a lot of those things for you. Here's one example where LinkedIn can be sort of like your built-in CRM, your customer relationship management system. LinkedIn has reminders that you can set up to remind yourself to contact people. This is not a view of my profile or my homepage. This is a close-up view of someone's profile, someone else's profile that I'm connected to. And individually, I can set up reminders to myself to reach out to that person and say, hey, we haven't touched base in a while, wanted to see what projects you're working on, see how I can help, let's get coffee, whatever you want whatever that message you want to be. And maybe it's not a reminder to reach out. Maybe it's just a reminder to for you to look at their profile, a reminder for you to look back at their profile and see what is their current job, what's their current position, what are they working on. Not necessarily that you have to talk to them, that you have to message them. This is a reminder for you. I haven't seen what this person is up to in a while. I need to do that again. And you can set it at the frequency of your choice. You can be reminded at a certain one-time event in a day, a week, or a month, or on a recurring basis. If you want to touch base with one particular person or multiple people on a regular basis, you can set up a recurring reminder to remind you to reach out or to remind you to connect with them. There are a couple other things on here that you see. You've got a note you can put in, and these are just for you. These are located in other people's profiles, but visible only to you. You can include a note on how you met them. You can include a tag so you can organize your connections. So for example, if you have a bunch of connections who are in the insurance business, you can tag them all insurance and then be able to organize them much more easily. But reminders is just one of those great things that people don't think about, that they rely on some other CRM tool, or maybe they don't have a CRM tool that does something like that, but it's a great other way to utilize LinkedIn and save you a lot of time in the long run, because again, these things come to you automatically. There's a few things on the connection side. On the content side, there's several things you can do to save you time as well. So Q4, what is the #1 question you're asked about your business? And this is one of those takeaways that you can use in a lot of different places, not just LinkedIn. It's very valuable for your blog, for coming up with content that you talk about on your business Facebook page, on your business Twitter account. What is the #1 question when someone finds out what you do? And this could be, now that I say that, this could probably come from a couple different sources. This could come from someone asking about what it is that you do for a living, or it could come from a potential customer. Maybe someone calls you or emails you as a potential client or customer of yours. What is the one thing, that first question that they're always asking about your products, about your services, about your hours, about your location? What is it that people are dying to know? Because this can be very valuable content to spark some ideas on the content side of LinkedIn. I'll give you a couple of minutes to answer this as we move on to talk about publishing posts. And I'll come back to some of your answers in a second here. But one way you can save yourself some time is by using content that you have elsewhere and creating an article about it on LinkedIn. Again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, Pulse is the built-in news service that feeds you articles and posts that are related to your industry based on your interest on LinkedIn. And you have the publishing power right on the homepage. Initially, the article publishing was available only to the higher level profiles, the celebrities. It is now open to everyone. It's basically a blogging service built into LinkedIn. And if you haven't taken advantage of this, I really hope you will soon, because you'll see that it's got all the familiar blogging options that you would see anywhere else. It's got ways to customize the text and add in photos and videos. It's just such a dynamic platform built right into the LinkedIn dashboard, and you can click on publish a post and include blog material on a regular basis. And it's a great way to save you time because it's a built-in platform. You don't have to go start a Medium account unless you have the time to do it. You don't have to go start a Tumblr account unless you have the time to do it. It's a place to include content right there on the site. And what I recommend you do, again, to save you time in the long run, is to take some of these questions that you get all the time from your clients and your customers or your network and turn those into posts. This will also save you time because people won't necessarily have to ask you those questions over and over again. It could serve like an FAQ section when you publish a post. Someone may be wanting to know about your industry, see your article, and that answers their question, but then leads them to call you to hire you. So just so many possibilities here, so many possibilities for the publishing platform. I hope you'll take advantage of it. And one way, again, to spark that conversation, to spark some ideas, is by just thinking about what it is people want to know about what you do. What do people want to learn, or to when they research your products and services, what is it that they're investigating? Are they looking at the best options, the best prices? What educational information can you provide? You are an expert on your industry. You are an industry expert in your field, which means you have a ton of information to offer. And the publishing platform is a great way right on LinkedIn to offer that. We have just a couple minutes left. My last question for you is, which feature on LinkedIn do you just don't understand? You just don't understand this feature. You just hate it. It's not user-friendly. Which one just drives you crazy? And the reason I bring this up as part of bridging this to conversations we can continue to have offline is an overall strategy. We're going to talk a little bit about the conversion side of LinkedIn, but it's an overall thought process you need when you're on LinkedIn. And that is, LinkedIn is about the connections. It's not about selling. It's about sales. It's not about selling. There's a subtle difference there. LinkedIn is about sales. It's not about selling. LinkedIn is for finding a job. It's for connecting with your people in your industry. It's for reaching out to clients and customers and educating them. But it's not about grabbing the bullhorn to promote. And that's basically the same idea with every social media platform. But I think it always helps to hear it again, that the purpose, especially on a professional platform here, is the connection. Connections are the purpose. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of how you can make that work on the group side. We haven't talked a lot about groups, even though I did mention it's probably one of the most valuable places that that you can spend your time on LinkedIn. We haven't talked a lot about it, so we're going to talk a little bit about it now. And I have two illustrations of how the conversations and the connections can go a lot farther than the sales, and help your sales if you start the conversation with a connection rather than a sale. Here's an example. Here's a group, and again, I've changed the names and the photos here, but here's a group post that says, I need help with customer retention. How can I encourage them to pay their bills and keep their policies from canceling? This is a post in a group. If you're familiar with activity in a group, you may be used to seeing links all the time, link after link in the group discussions. But what happens when you pose a question instead of broadcasting material is that people actually answer the question. Revolutionary. People answer the question when you ask. And that was the case with this question. Someone asked, I need some advice. How do I encourage my customers to pay their bills? And he got responses. Then once the thread gets going in the group, then maybe you want to put in a post that kind of summarizes what you've been talking about, or send people to a link so they can continue the discussion somewhere else. The point is, talk first, links later, especially in groups. Here's another example from our own group that we post in a lot, social media training and best practices. We started it at Splash Media U, and it's grown considerably now. And I love pointing to this example, even though it's from a couple of years ago, of how the talk first, links later philosophy really works. My question is, what's the worst kind of tweet? And I know it's a little awkward. I'm talking about Twitter on LinkedIn, but bear with me. What's the worst kind of tweet? Too many hashtags, a link with no text, or word. Okay, hopefully everybody can see me here. I've gone off my screen sharing. Let me make sure we're back on. And I'm really just coming back on to conclude the webinar. I'll make sure. Let's see if he let me know if he can see me again, and we'll come back on here. All right, we're back up. Okay, thanks for the message. We're back up. Sorry for the confusion there for a second. I'll just go back to let me go back to the chart for 1 second here. Go back to screen share. And really, I just came back. I'm glad we're back on live, but I really just came back to conclude. And thank you for joining us today. Let me go back to our chart here so you can see. Again, this is just a recommendation. This is my recommendation for you, but what you should really do is create one for yourself. I do definitely recommend checking the news every day and responding to emails and invitations every day. Beyond that, organize this in the way that suits you, in the way that suits your business flow throughout the week. But coming up with your weekly schedule will help you keep LinkedIn down to 10 or 15 minutes, and you can get in and do what you need to do and get out and get on with your life. Thank you so much for joining us today. These are just half an hour long. I know it's not a lot of time to get a ton of information. Hopefully you got some tips that were a little bit helpful for you. I'm going to go back for a second here to some of our Twitter questions on that final Q5. Christopher says the new version of LinkedIn app split up the newsfeed and the network feed doesn't seem to get to gel. Yeah, that's true. If you're talking about the Pulse, because there is a different Pulse app now, LinkedIn has a ton of apps, and it's kind of confusing. It can be confusing which app you want to use. There are a lot of acquisitions that LinkedIn has had over the years, and so each one is kind of represented in another app. Yeah, Pulse is good, and the main LinkedIn app is good. I would just start with those. I wouldn't worry too much about the other ones for now, unless you are looking for a job and you can use the LinkedIn Jobs feature app. But again, I would just say start with the main LinkedIn app and possibly the Pulse one, and then go from there. I've had this screen up for a second now while I was answering that question, but we would love to continue the conversation with you. You can tweet to me at Duncan Gilman, and Julio and I are both monitoring at Splash Media U, so please tweet to us there. Cannot wait to have another Splash webinar with you. The topic will be shared with you very soon. Can't wait to do that in April. Between now and then, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find a lot more of the resources that we use and we talk about on our blog, splashmediau.com/blog. And if you'd like to know more about our social media certification program, we have a great promotion running now, and it's a great opportunity for you to reach out and talk to us about that. So hope to hear from you. I'm going to switch back over so I can sign off. And as long as I'm on the right screen, and wish you a very happy rest of your week, and I will talk to you later.